Good afternoon, everybody. Or I keep doing this till every week I come on. It's afternoon, morning, good evening, depending on what time of the day it is where you are. Lovely to have you with us. Okay, so welcome to today's True Temperance International Family Health Show. For some of you, this may be the first time that you're coming on. For others, you're probably part of the family, the True Temperance International family. We've been going since lockdown with weekly presentations on various things to do with your health, your family's health, your children, your health, basically. So on today's show, I'm your host, Sharon Wallace, and joining me is your co-host.
It's Louise. Hi, everybody.
Okay. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Sharon.
Thank you. So some of you may remember Louise from our December cooking shows. Louise was one of our chefs along with Alvin and Stephanie. And Louise is part of the True Temperance International administration team. So we have another really exciting program for you today. Hopefully most of you saw the poster. So welcome to our visitors, our viewers also on YouTube. We're always just so happy to have you with us every week. We look forward to these times. So before we go into today's presentation, though, we have a few things to do. One thing is to go through the testimonies, because we set challenges every week. And last week was without fail, we had a challenge for you. So I'm sure, hopefully you'll come back with some testimonies to let me know how you got on. Also, we have a disclaimer, which we'll come to. And we also have giveaways, which we've been encouraging you to invite your friends, invite your family, invite your neighbours, your work colleagues, anybody that you know, really. So we have some giveaways, which we will move towards the end of the show. But Louise, can you remind everybody what the challenge was from last week?
It was to do with spiritual, sharing your goals with spiritual, what you've done to help other people with spiritual.
That's right, because last week the presentation was given to us by Dr. Gandhi, and it was to do spiritual obesity. We noticed the numbers kind of fell a bit last week, so perhaps some of you joined on YouTube and caught up, but it was to do with learning so much spiritual Bible knowledge and having all the head knowledge. And do we actually share what we've learned? Do we actually go out and help? Do we just learn that God is love, and we learn that, he died for us and all the plans that he has for us, and not share it with anybody else, not share his love practically with people? I mean, if you've got a wardrobe full of coats, do you just keep them to yourself, or could you share it? Perhaps if there's some homeless person, maybe you can give them something. So that was the challenge. So let's see how you've got on. When we're saying this isn't to brag, just to encourage each other to do a little bit of sharing. So I see we have a raised hand. Who's that, Louise? Can you see?
Anna?
Yeah. Anna, would you like to unmute and share with us how you managed to get on with this week's challenge?
Yeah, I started last week actually, because I was praying a lot for doing Bible studies, and a friend of mine actually, she asked me to do the Bible studies to her, and I had a really beautiful experience because I used the Zoom, but
sorry, one minute, Anna, we're really struggling to hear you. Is it possible to turn your volume, your microphone up a bit louder, or come a bit closer to your microphone? And if you could tell us where you're from as well, Anna. It's lovely to have you with us.
I'm Italian, but I live in Norwich.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was saying that I use the Zoom link, but my Zoom it can last only 40 minutes, and because I don't have the upgrade, and what happened is that the first time that we had to meet, Unfortunately, she couldn't join soon, so she was late about more than 15 minutes. So I was very worried that we had not enough time to do the Bible study. But it was so surprisingly, we could complete the Bible study, and we could talk together for almost 2 hours without having the time cutting down. And it happened again yesterday, the second meeting. So it's incredible because it never happens, because I do the children's Sabbath school and they last only 40 minutes each in Sabbath morning. But when I do the Bible studies with my friend, because she wants to know the scriptures, it never stopped. the time never stopped. It's incredible. Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's really good. That's so encouraging. Thank you for sharing that with us, Anna.
You're
and
welcome.
Studies continue, because it seemed like when you're doing that work, children's Sabbath school is also God's work, but when you're doing the Bible studies, maybe that is where your gift is.
Yeah.
Share God's word with adults as well as children. That's fantastic. Okay, does anybody else have a hand that they would like to share how they've managed to get on with the challenge over the last couple of weeks? Okay, so while we're waiting for somebody to raise a hand or unmute, thank you, Deborah. Deborah Courtney, she's saying that is the work of God. Amen, amen. So whilst we're waiting for somebody to unmute, just to remind you that we do have groups. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, perhaps, we do have groups on Telegram, men's and women's separate groups, because there may be issues specific to women. So we do have groups, or specific to men, the brothers, that you can join. We also have WhatsApp groups, but we're trying to merge that all onto, or migrate everybody over to Telegram. It makes it easier for us to manage the groups. And so one of the admin, if you'd be kind enough to put the information in the chat. And we also have our website, which is truetemperanceinternational.com or .org, which you can log on to. And we also have spiritual health groups, and we have Bible studies on those groups. Louise, could you tell us a little bit about the spiritual health group?
Spiritual health group, me and Louis on tonight.
I can't hear you. Oh. Is that the group?
Tuesday night.
Yeah, the
On
spiritual
Tuesday,
health.
yeah, the group on Tuesdays, which is they do on Tuesday.
What time is that?
6. Is it 6 o'clock? No, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. It's on 7 o'clock. Yeah.
So from 7 o'clock till when it finishes, aiming to finish 10 to about 8:30. We have Bible study led by Alvin. Currently, Alvin's leading the series. And we also have on a Tuesday, essential oils and health, how essential oils can help with your benefit your health, as well as once a month we have a women's WhatsApp session, and we had that this week as well. That was quite well attended, very well attended. We were looking at the I was going to say the menopause, but it wasn't the menopause. Well, I'm probably having a bit of a menopausal moment right now. We were looking at the immune system. Just remembered now. Yeah, looking at the immune system, and that was very good. Yeah. So hopefully the links are coming in. Okay. Is there anybody else that has anything that they'd like to share about how they got on with being kind to people in the week, sharing practically God's love with people? Could be your neighbors, could be your friends, could be even be your family members. Thank you. Yes. The session this week, well, yeah, earlier on this week was harmonizing the hormones. That's what it was for the ladies group. What about yourself, Louise? Have you got an opportunity, have you got something that you'd like to share with regards to helping others in the week? Anything that happened? Any testimonies?
Yes, I have a neighbor we've been looking after. He's 75 years old and he hasn't been well this week. We went out on Monday, but he got wet and his neck has gone all stiff and everything. Alvin's been massaging him and he knows that we're Christians. And he does sometimes ask for prayer and everything. So we've been helping him all this week to do his shopping and everything else. And God has blessed him.
Excellent. And as you do good to other people, you also receive a benefit of blessing. Now, there's a few things in the chat. Let me just see. Oh, this is obviously the links to the groups.
Somebody's just got their hand up.
Okay, if we can, I'm not seeing that, but if they can unmute and share with us.
I'm not, I don't know
So
how to pronounce the name.
Daniel, Daniel, and also Ben.
Oh.
With the hand.
Hi, yeah, my name is Ben. I'm speaking from Nottingham in England, and I was invited on this Zoom by John, and I also invited my my wife who lives in America. Her name is called Mercy. You know, so that's the work of God. You know, for us to spread the words. You know, so that was my testimony, to invite as many people as I can. And besides saying that, Shelley, you mentioned the Bible study on Tuesday, and you said it's 7, but what time does it finish?
The aim is to go for possibly an hour to an hour and a half, but sometimes it goes on a little bit longer. But if it's reached the point where you can't, you need to come off, then that's fine. You can leave the group. But it's normally about an hour and a half.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And we can send the links out for that as well. But that's, if you join the spiritual Telegram group, you'll definitely get the links for that.
Okay, we have a hand here. I hope I say your name right. Salve Kamara Daniel. You got your hand up? Are you there? No.
She needs to unmute.
Oh,
Not there. Are you there?
Selva, you need to unmute yourself.
Selva Kumari, we can't hear what you're saying. We can see your mouth moving, but we can't hear you. If you just unmute, so if you touch where the microphone is on your device and then click it, it should enable you to unmute. We can't do that for you. We can see you. You're still not unmuted. Yes, go ahead.
so I'm from UK.
Hi. How do you say your name?
Selva.
Selva.
Selva. It's easy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Would you like to share with us?
Yeah, I live in UK. My daughter, Dr. Elma, invited me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was you going? Is this your first time?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Selva. And
Thank you.
the giveaway, for those of you who were unsure, was for if you've invited 5 people and they're on the platform, and you can the 5 people can say yes. Say for instance, the person's name's Tina. And Tina's invited 5 people. If they're on here and they can say yes, Tina invited me, then Tina gets the gift.
Okay. Elma invited me.
Elma
Daniel.
She's
Dr.
your
Elma.
daughter.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
and if she's invited a few other people, then and they can say that they're on the platform, then she just needs to send a message to one of the admin team. We're down as hosts and co-host on here. Send a message to us with your details, and then we can send a gift to you. The gifts are varied. We've got a pain salve. We have some soaps. We have a lung tonic. So that's what we've got. Soaps, which are soaps without the dry, the SLS, which is going to dry your skin out.
Where you're based?
We're based in parts in the UK.
You're in UK now.
Yeah, I'm from the UK, but there's various people in True Temperance International from South Africa. So
Okay.
quite a international team.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, and I hope you will learn.
Thank you so much.
Get your pen and papers out, those of you, or remember you can go back and watch this live, or you can watch it live on YouTube, or you can go back and watch the recording.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's any friends that you want to share the information with, you can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right, so without going any further, I think we don't have any more testimonies, so we'll go over to the disclaimer. I just need to share my screen for that. Okay, Louise.
Yep. The TTI disclaimer. Only a physical can diagnose, treat, and describe illness or disease. Any information disclosed or at the TTI Zoom talk show are for educational and informational purpose only. Please contact to seek professional medical advice from your general practice regarding any illness or disease you may be suffering from.
Thank you very much for that, Louise.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's okay. So our presenter today is none other than Lucille Fifield. You may have seen her on our platform before. She has made an appearance before. Lucille is the director of Manor House, which is a wellness centre. And she can tell us a little bit more about that when she comes on. And she's also a registered nurse, and she's going to share with us about the topic, constipation. Let it go. So I'm not going to say too much about that, other than to say that it's something that affects everybody, because we all have plumbings, internal plumbings, and it needs to be unblocked for it to be working efficiently. And even if we're not suffering with constipation, perhaps we know somebody else that could be, or you want to prevent it. Prevention is always better. So if they're not on here, you can always let them know that this is on YouTube, and you can share the information with them, and they can watch it at their leisure. Okay, so over to you, Lucille.
All right, thank you, Sharon. It's such a pleasure to be on this platform. Yeah, I've got a lot to talk about in terms of constipation. But first of all, what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is share my screen. So I'm just going to go and share my screen at the moment. Just bear with me one moment. Okay. So can you all see that? Yeah. So my name is Lucille Fifield, as Sharon said. I'm the health director of Manor House. And my background is that I'm a registered nurse. I'm also a registered health visitor. I've done further studies in public health. So I've got a Master's of Science in Public Health, and I've also got a Master's of Business Administration. I'm currently doing a naturopathic doctorate, at the moment. So I'm studying to be a naturopathic doctor. So some of you may ask, what is Manor House? So Manor House is a health education and wellness ministry. And our purpose really is to address health in its totality. So by that, I mean looking at health from the physical aspect of our beings, the mental, and also the spiritual. So we know that we have the NHS, it's a fantastic organization, but it primarily focuses on the physical. It addresses the mental, but not very well, and it totally ignores the spiritual. And if you don't address all those three aspects of your being, you will never achieve perfect health. So what we do when we have people who come to see us, we work to ensure that our health guests become equipped to know how to look after this wonderful machinery that God has given to them. So we educate them so that they become intelligent in regard to disease, its causes, prevention, and cure. So by the end of this presentation, okay, just 1 minute. It's not moving. Okay, by the end of this presentation, I hope that you'll become intelligent about how to manage constipation as a condition, to know a little bit about its causes and how to prevent it. And if you do get it, how to cure it. So I just want to talk a little bit about who we are. So my husband and I, Arthur and I, are the founders of the ministry, but we work with a team of people. So it's not just us in isolation. Just like TTI, it's a team of people who work together. So this team of people bring their skills, their knowledge and experience to Manor House. So we have registered nurses, trained nurses, we have therapists, massage specialists. We also have an excellent cook. We also have estate managers, a center manager, and we have a ministry manager. But one thing we all have in common is that we are all trained medical missionaries. And we have a deep desire to love and to help other people learn about God's methods of health and healing. So the two main services that we offer, we have a day clinic, which opens from Sunday to Thursday. And the other service that we provide is the residential program. So our next residential program is from the 4th to the 14th of April. And that will be a 10 to 14 day program. Again, I just want to tell a little bit about, for some reason this isn't working, just say a little bit about our approach. So I just want to share with this beautiful quote from Ministries of Healing, and that was written in 1905. And it says, disease and the effort of nature to free the systems from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. In case of sickness, the very first thing we should be doing, ascertain the cause. Unhelpful conditions should be changed, wrong habits corrected, and nature is to be assisted in her efforts to expel impurities and to reestablish right conditions in the body. So let's break that down. So the very first thing we do, we try and establish what's causing the disease. So one of the things we do, because the Bible says, the curse causeless does not come. There has to be a reason why someone has a health condition or has a disease. So we do health consultations, we do body chemistry analysis and assessment. Another thing that we do is we observe people. Second thing we do, once we have identified the cause, we stop the wrong habits that have created that. So unhealthful conditions should be changed. So it's up to the health guest, once they know the cause of their health condition, they have to make a decision to change. So we provide education and support and motivate them to do so. So they stop the wrong habits and we replace them with the right habits. So they need to be taught what are the right habits to prevent this disease coming back to them. So we educate on the laws of health and we provide the support to them to follow those laws of health. And then the fourth thing, and that's where a lot of people focus on when they have sickness, is what can I do to get rid of this disease? But that's the fourth thing. You should do the first three things first, and then it says, then this advert, after you've done all that, then we do the cleansing of the body and the detoxification. We do all those different therapies, internal therapies, external therapies, fasting, water therapy, hydrotherapy, therapeutic herbs, colonic, enemas, poultices, etc. And then the final thing, and this is what the body does itself. We don't do this at all. The body, once it's got the right conditions, starts to heal itself. So that's a little bit about what we do. But for this presentation, because we can't go through all those areas, I'm going to look at the disease, the condition, which is constipation. We're going to look at some of the causes, its prevention, and its cure. So before I go into the presentation, I'd just like to do a disclaimer. I know TTI has done a disclaimer, but I'll also add a disclaimer as well, a quick one. The following information that I'm going to present is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment from your regular physician. Now, if you're concerned about your health, you should meet with your personal physician to discuss your concerns. Equally, I'm not able to answer any personal questions about anyone's health on this platform. So I'm going to go straight into the presentation now. I'm sure most of you know this lovely man. Yes. On the 16th of August, 1977, Elvis Presley was found dead, slumped by the toilet in his mansion called Graceland in Memphis, Tennessee. The doctors said that he died of a heart attack. He was only 42 years old. Okay. However, a post-mortem revealed that Elvis had liver damage. He weighed 25 stones. He had 10 times the amount of codeine normally recommended for medical purposes in his body, as well as other prescribed drugs, including laxatives. His colon was 5 to 6 centimeters long, so it's about that, 5 to 6 centimeters in diameter, so it's about that. Whereas normal should be half that amount, 2 to 3. And instead of being the standard 4 to 5 feet in length, his colon was 8 to 9 feet in length. He had copious amounts of a natural white chalk-like fecal matter in his colon. He was, as we would say in nursing, he was impacted with feces. The postmortem also revealed that the feces had been in his colon for 4 to 5 months and would have certainly presented a tremendous toxic load on the singer's physiology. One of the doctors claims that Elvis's bloated appearance and obesity were due to his constipation and not from overeating the wrong foods. Apparently, the doctor claims that he was in talk with Elvis's surgeon about literally removing some of the colon where it was full of poo. He had heart disease due to his lifestyle, but the action that eventually triggered his untimely demise was straining very hard to have a bowel movement. Poor Elvis died of a classic case of heart attack induced by straining to poo. He died from constipation. So question, what is constipation? Now, as we've just heard from Elvis Presley, constipation can lead to serious illness and death. But how do you know you are constipated? You know, some old medical textbooks say, you know, you can have feces and not in your bowels for up to a year and it's not a problem. However, it's likely to be constipated if you've not had a bowel movement at least 3 times during the last week. It's likely to be constipation if the feces is often large and dry, hard or lumpy, like rabbit droppings. And if it's constipation, if you have to strain to have a poo or in pain when you're having a poo. You may also have stomachache and feel bloated or sick, or if you have infrequent stools. Sometimes you may have a bowel movement, but you still feel that, you know what, I haven't emptied my bowels properly. So let's look at what are the symptoms. So the symptoms of constipation can be easily overlooked, especially if someone has learning difficulties or if someone has dementia. So some of the things that you can experience is abdominal pain, cramps, bloating, loss of appetite. You may feel nauseous, you may even vomit. You may have overflow of diarrhea, so you may have having very liquidy stools coming out your back passage. There may be fecal impaction, or you may even, and this is a horrible thing to witness. I remember when I was a student nurse on the wards, my very first ward, seeing that, you know, someone vomiting feces. The smell is horrendous, but the fear on people's face when they're vomiting it, they know something is seriously wrong. So fecal vomiting is not very pleasant. And also, because the body is trying to get rid of this waste, the bowels can twist on itself and lead to ischemia. That's when no blood supplies get to the colon and it dies, and blood poisoning, septicemia. Okay. So you may ask, how often should I pass stools? Surprisingly, it's only recently that science has come to some agreement as to what is normal. So if, as I said, if you look at standard physiology textbooks, they imply that normal can be from one bowel movement to every few weeks or months, or to 24 times a day can be regarded as normal. Can you imagine going once every few months? Wow. Now, it wasn't until 2010 when we got the first serious look at defining normal stool frequency. And they said it should be between 3 per week or 3 per day. Based on the fact, they based that information on the fact that about 98% of people tend to fall in that category. However, you know, can you imagine going 3 times per week? Some people do, I understand that, but just because it's considered normal, it doesn't mean it's helpful or optimal. So when they look at those 98% of people that fall between 3 a day or 3 a week, a large number of those people reported that they have urgency or they have to strain to go, and they have incomplete defecation. That means not everything has come away. So the researchers felt because 98% of people experience that, that must be normal. That is normal if you're eating a fiber deficient diet, but not normal for our species. Defecation, the ability to go to toilet, should not be a painful exercise. So, how often should I pass stools? According to Dr. Jensen and Dr. Kellogg, these were famous 20th century naturopaths. They spent decades of their professional careers saying that if you don't eliminate your waste daily, and preferably 2 to 3 times a day, you are in danger of suffering from major degenerative diseases. Now, Dr. Jensen's in his book, Dr. Jensen's Guide to Better Bowel Care, he says that they've said that health is stored in the colon. Health is stored in the colon. And consequently, if your colon is not healthy, then you're going to get disease. And they maintain that disease begins in the colon. So Dr. Jensen, in his book, says, I consider it the greatest present day internal danger to health. That is to talk about constipation. Intestinal toxemia and auto-intoxication, that's when the waste is reabsorbed back into your body rather than being passed out, are direct results of intestinal constipation. Constipation contributes to the lowering of the body's resistance, predisposing the body to many acute illnesses and the initiation of many degenerative and chronic processes. Constipation indirectly cripples and kills more people in our country, and he was talking about the United States of America, than almost any other single disease condition having to do with deficient function. So let's bring it to the UK, right? He mentioned America. Let's see about the UK. So most of our audience are in Britain, but you can be sure if you follow a Western lifestyle, you will be experiencing constipation. So who is affected? So constipation is far from an unusual problem. So 1 in 7 adults in Britain are affected. 1 in 3 children are affected at any one time. 60% of those suffering from constipation have been shown to be women. So a lot of women suffer from constipation. And also constipation is common during pregnancy. 74% of elderly nursing home residents use laxative for bowel regulation. So from these figures, we can conclude that this is a common health issue that is easily addressed by some lifestyle changes. So we've looked at those who are affected by it. Let's look at the cost of constipation. And again, I'm looking at the UK. A conservative estimate is that there are around 6.5 million people in the UK today with some form of bowel problem. That's 1 in 10 of us. How many people are currently on the platform?
160.
All right, so if there's about 150, so that's about 15 people on the platform. Is that right, if I've done my calculations? Yeah, have constipation, yeah. So 168,
plus those on YouTube.
Pardon?
I'm saying plus those on YouTube, there's about 30.
Okay, all right then, yeah. So if there's about 20 or 200 people on this platform, then there's about 20 people who are suffering from constipation. So we're looking at the cost of constipation. 168 million pounds was spent by the National Health Service in England alone. So we're not looking at Scotland and Northern Ireland or Wales on treating constipation in 2018 and 19. 8 million pounds was spent on unplanned admissions due to hospitals due to constipation. So someone has bypassed their GP and have gone straight to the hospital, usually through A&E, and that's caused about 8 million pounds. And then about 87 million pounds in 2018-19 was spent on prescriptions for laxative medication in England. And we're not looking at people who just buy some laxatives over the counter from the chemist or just going to Tesco's and buying something for their constipation. So it's very, very costly problem. So we've looked at the numbers, we've looked at the final financial costs. Let's look at the human cost of constipation. Richard Hanley, this lovely young man, was 33 years old and he had Down syndrome. And he died at Ipswich Hospital on the 17th of November in 2012. Now, 2 days before his death, there was around 10 kilograms, that's 22 pounds of feces, stools removed from his body in an operation. That's over 1.5 stones of feces removed from his body. He was admitted to hospital on the 14th of November, 3 days before he died, after his family became concerned with his distended abdomen, which made him look full-term pregnant. He had an operation to remove the fecal matter the following day. He was born with moderate learning disabilities, and he had bowel problems, but the family were managing it with laxatives and a high fiber diet. However, he moved to a care home, and which turned into a supported living complex. This resulted in changes to his diet and a reduction in monitoring his bowel movements, leading to his constipation worsening and eventually his untimely death. So, what has the Bible to say about a bowel disease? So, bowel issues and constipation is not a new phenomenon. Now, the Bible records in Jeremiah 4, it says, Jeremiah saying, my bowels, I am pained at my very heart. The Bible recognizes that there's a close link between the brain and the gut, the brain and the bowels. But one story I like to share is Jehoram. And when I was younger, I used to enjoy reading this because he had a gruesome death due to bowel issues. The Bible tells his story in 2 Chronicles 21. Now, he was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. However, he was a wicked king because he married the wrong woman, unfortunately. He committed heinous crimes, mass murder, genocide. He worshipped idols and forced the country of Judah to do so. He was warned by God but refused to obey, and he suffered the consequences of his actions and his lifestyle. So calamities came to him one after another. And it says, and after all this, the Lord smote him in his bowels with an incurable disease. And it came to pass that in the process of time, after the end of 2 years, his bowels fell out by reason of his sickness. So it appeared that he had an intestinal prolapse. So he died of sore diseases. He was 40 years old when he died, an extremely painful, offensive death. And it says he departed without being desired. So we're going to look at what causes constipation. This quote is from Dr. Dennis Parsons Burkitt, and he's considered to be the doctor of fiber. And he did a lot of studies about constipation and stools. And what he found that societies that eat unrefined food, that is food in their natural state, produce large stools and build small hospitals. Societies that eat unrefined foods produce large stools and build small hospitals. Societies that eat fiber depleted foods produce small stools and build large hospitals. Yes, it's well known that chronic constipation creates conditions for the development of other conditions such as hemorrhoids when part of the rectum falls out, anal fissures where there's tears along the anus, anal fistulas, diverticulitis, rectal prolapse, cancer, and other health problems. So let's have a quick look at what the colon does. Now, when we eat, food moves from the mouth to the esophagus to the stomach. The food then passes through the small intestines, which you can see on the screen, to the large intestine. So on the right side, you have the ascending colon. Along the top where it says colon, that's a transverse colon. Then you have the descending colon, and that little loop there is the sigmoid colon. Then you have the rectum and the anus. And so what happens, the food is moved once it goes through the small intestine. The waste and the water that is remained goes into the large colon. The colon removes water, salts, and some nutrients, and it starts forming the stool. There's muscles in the colon that moves the feces along, squeezing its content along through a function called peristalsis. Also in our colon, we have billions of bacteria, billions and trillions, in fact, of healthy bacteria, which coat the colon and its contents. And they live in healthy balance with the body, and they live off the fiber that we eat. So as I mentioned, the colon is divided into those 4 parts: ascending, transverse, descending, and the sigmoid colon before the rectum. In a male adult, the colon is around 5 feet. That is 1.5 meters. Okay. So once the feces goes through the colon, the question is, how do you know when to have a poo? So we're just going to look at what's called the defecation reflex. Defecation reflex. So the process of eliminating stools from the body requires the work of the defecation reflex. When the stool is finally well formed, it gets pushed along, as I said, through a process of peristalsis down into the descending colon and then into the rectum. Now it's held there until there is sufficient volume pressing along the walls of the rectum, which sends a signal to 2 rings of muscles, sphincter muscles. So you have the internal sphincter muscle just here, and then the external sphincter muscle, which is you can't see? Okay, you can't see it. 2 sphincter muscles, rings of muscle, and they control, they hold the feces inside. And then when enough poo fills up the rectum, it presses against the wall of the rectum, and it also presses the internal sphincter muscles, which relaxes and sends a signal to your brain that it's time to relieve yourself. You get the urge, and it's the call of nature. When that happens, the external sphincter, and you can feel the external sphincter. If you put your little finger and lubricate it, just put it up your bum, you can feel that muscle there, that ring of muscle. That external sphincter opens when you command it. Now, because this is voluntary, you can have the urge to defecate, but you can wait until it's convenient. Now, if you ignore the urge, what we say in the profession, reject the stool, water keeps being absorbed back into the body, and the stool gets hard and dry. And sometimes the stool can even go back up into the rectum and the sigmoid. Now, some people are chronically constipated because they don't want to take the time to have a bowel movement, or they're embarrassed to have a bowel movement at work or at school. And this is one of the causes of constipation, rejecting the stool. So well-formed stools tells us when it wants to come out. We don't need to coax it out. Yes, we don't need to coax poo out. It should just come out. It looks like a brown banana with a point at one end. It's well hydrated and it just slips out easily. So, question, what should a well-formed stool looks like? All right. So ask yourself this question. So when you've had a poo, I don't know if any of you taken the time once you've had a poo to look in the toilet to see what it looks like. Yeah, have you?
All of us.
All right. So one of the things you need to do is look at the consistency, the color, and the smell. And there's the Bristol stool chart when we use it at Manor House, and they point that there's 7 types of stools. The type 1, it looks like rabbit droppings, and that's severe constipation. It means that there's been a longer transit time. Type 2 looks like a bunch of grapes. That's mild constipation, and you've got a bit of toxic overload. Type 3, sausage shaped with cracks on the surface. People can describe it like corn on the cob. So next time you look at a corn on the cob and about to eat it, think about the stools. Yes. So that's considered normal. Yeah. And then the next type, type 4, is sausage or snake-like. It's smooth and soft. Again, that's considered like a normal bowels movement. It's like a sausage. Type 5, it's like chicken nuggets, may lack fiber. It suggests you may lack fiber, and it's the beginning of toxic overload in the system. Type 6, fluffy pieces with ragged edges, mushy peas. So it looks like oat porridge. It indicates you may have mild diarrhea, there may be inflammation in the body, and it's a toxic overloaded system. And type 7 is watery, no solid pieces at all. So it looks like gravy. And that's severe diarrhea, and it's indicating there's inflammation in the body, and it may also indicate that there's bacterial or viral infection. So the question is, next question we have, how often do you have a bowel movement? Now, people on good diets generally have 1 to 3 bowel movements a day. If you are not having a daily bowel movement, there can be issues. And the next question to ask all of you, and for you to consider, how long does it take for you to move? And by that, I'm talking about transit time. So let's do a quick test, and you can take this down, and it's something you can do at home. So we're trying to find out how long it takes from the time you eat food until it comes out the other end. So that's the transit time. So what you can do to test that, you can buy some charcoal tablets or powder, mix it in water and drink it. It's important that you note exactly when you took the charcoal. Write down the date and the time. Yes, write those down. And then you keep on observing your poo. When you see the dark charcoal come out in the toilet, you can calculate how many hours since you took the charcoal. That is your transit time. You can also, if you can't get charcoal, you can also do the test with beetroots. I believe Tesco's got beetroots in at the moment. I think Aldi also have beetroots. So go and buy some beetroots. You need to eat about 3 or 4 whole beetroots. Now let's look at the times then. We're looking at transit times. So if it's less than 12 hours, so if you're going very frequently, then it may suggest that you have malabsorption problems. Yeah. If it's, well, you're not absorbing your nutrients from your food. Malabsorption problem essentially means you're not absorbing the nutrients from the food that you're eating. If it's 12 to 24 hours from the time you've taken the beetroot or the charcoal to the time you see it come out the other end, then that's optimal. That's what we should be aiming for. If it's more than 24 hours, this indicates that waste is sitting inside your colon too long. And so if you've got a poor transit time, it greatly increases the risk of colon disease. Substances that were supposed to be eliminated are being reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. Now they can irritate interfere with your body and how it's working. Now, when a person is constipated, if your transit time is more than 24 hours, the walls of the colon are often impacted or caked with accumulation of fecal waste matter. So the inner diameter of the colon, what we call the lumen, is reduced like a water pipe with a buildup of mineral deposits. Now, eventually the opening becomes narrower and narrower, make it more and more difficult for your body to pass waste. Since the encrusted feces, which is lining the colon wall, the colon is unable to absorb nutrients from your food. Waste from the blood, which should normally be drawn into the colon through the colon walls, are being reabsorbed by the body, along with other toxins resulting from the fermentation and putrefaction of incompletely digested food. So if you've got meat, it's rotting inside the body because you have constipation and there's incrustation on the colon wall. If you're eating fruits and vegetables, those are fermenting in the body. And this can lead to a whole type of health problems. Sally Lewis, she was 55 years old from Bromsgrove in Worcester. She had learning difficulties. She died after feces blocked her bowels in 2017. Now, her sister, Julie, said the condition was so bad, Sally had feces in her throat at the time of her death. Her family said that they wanted to make sure nothing like this happens again. On the evening of the 26th of October 2017, Sally, who had long-standing history of constipation, she became unwell. The family thought she was coming down with a tummy bug. She was wobbly and unsteady on her feet. She refused to drink, which was unheard of for Sally. That night, Sally slept on the sofa. The next morning, she was dead. A post-mortem examination found her large bowel was grossly distended, and the cause of death was recorded as large bowel obstruction due to fecal impaction. Her death was considered to be from natural causes. Okay, so we're going to look at the causes and cures for constipation. I mentioned earlier Dr. Dennis Burkitt. Now, in the 1970s, he and his colleagues went and studied traditional African tribes in Uganda and South Africa, the Bantu tribe. And they found that unlike Western white indigenous children, African children could produce feces on demand. Can you imagine it? Someone says to you, could you go to the toilet, produce some feces? They will go off, squat down and produce poo on demand. So Dr. Burkitt and his colleagues found that their stools were large, soft, and were easy to pass. In fact, Dr. Burkitt started to weigh the amount of feces passed in a day. Right, hold on 1 minute. All right. So the diet. Now, he found that white children in Africa who ate a Western diet produced 5 ounces of stools daily. That's about 150 grams. Whereas Africans eating traditional diet passed 16 ounces of stools. That's about 1 pound of poo daily. The Africans who ate the indigenous diet also had a shorter transit time as well. Right. So that's how the Western diet, 5 ounces. The traditional diet, 16 ounces. Yeah. So the transit time for the Western diet was 48 to 72 hours. That's up to 3 days. The traditional African diet was 12 hours. He also noted that people on native diets had low incidence of diseases common to Western civilizations, such as appendicitis, diabetes, diverticulitis, gallstones, coronary heart disease, hiatal hernia, varicose veins, hemorrhoids, colon cancer, and obesity. However, what they also notice is when these people, the indigenous African people, moved into the city and adopted the Western diet, they started to develop these diseases. So Dr. Burkitt attributed much of the disease to poor dietary fiber intake in a modernized diet. So since that time, much research has come across, and they've said that what we need to be eating is a whole food, plant-based diet, which will supply all the fiber required to reduce the risk of constipation. Now, Dr. Kellogg's, he said fiber, he recognized fiber is crucially important for the colon. Fiber acts like an internal brush for the colon. So we have soluble and insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber goes more or less goes through the colon without being touched. But what it does, it adds bulk to the stools, making it easier to pass. Insoluble fiber acts like a soluble fiber acts like a sponge and also feeds the healthy bacteria in the colon. But so what we need soluble and insoluble fiber. So Dr. Kellogg says that civilized man has adopted the dog's diet while having the colon of the chimpanzee. So what he's suggesting is that civilized man has replaced fruit and vegetable and grains, seeds and nuts with animal flesh, but we haven't got the makeup to cope with that high meat diet. So animal products, flesh, there is no fiber whatsoever. So if your diet consists of dead animals, then you'll be ripe for disease. Also, dairy products like cheese and milk is constipating due to the lack of fiber, but also an enzyme called lactase to digest the milk protein can cause constipation because we don't have it when we when we are weaned. Many young children suffer constipation due to subsisting on very high amounts of milk and dairy products. Now, if you're eating refined foods like white bread or hardo bread, white rice, anything that has its bran removed, then expect to experience hard dough stools. Constipation bread, that's what I call white bread and hard dough bread. Other habits that contribute to constipation are hasty eating, eating too fast, cut and swallow. I remember I did a colonic on a family member, and as we were looking at the waste that was coming out, I saw a whole piece of apple that still had a teeth mark in it coming out in the waste. It was clear this person was just cutting the food, biting it and swallowing it. They were not chewing the food. So if we're eating hastily and not chewing the food, that food is not going to be able to be digested well and act like that internal brush in the body. So you may be eating excellent plant-based diet, but it's important to also chew the food. Conversely, Dr. Kellogg's also claims that the habit of chewing too much can cause constipation. So we have to be temperate in all things, no extreme, not the cut and swallow, but also not the chewing too much. However, what I know from our society, that we do not chew our food enough. I've never come across a person who chews their food too much. We also have to look at how we take our food. Hot foods and hot drinks, they too can cause constipation. Yeah. Also, if you're not eating enough food, if you're on a juice fast for too long, that too can cause constipation. Or if you're just drinking a water fast, again, if you don't cleanse your bowels before you go on a juice fast or a water fast, then that can cause constipation. All right, next one, lack of water. So lack of water is a major cause of constipation. So conversely, water is crucially important to prevent constipation. Rather than drinking water, we may find people drinking alcohol, tea, coffee, sweet drinks, and are not drinking the water. The body needs water. Those other drinks act as a diuretic and make you pass out the water through your kidneys rather than a lot of water going into the colons. So if we drink in a lot of alcohol, caffeine, sweet drinks, then it's going to make a bad situation of constipation even worse. So I've come across many people, I've said, how much are you drinking? They said, yes, I'm drinking water, but how much? And they tell me how much they're drinking. I said, well, you're not drinking enough water. So there's a simple water formula that you need to know how much you should drink for your health and body condition. If you're very, very sick, a very sick person, then you should be drinking about 37 mils for every kilogram of body weight. Now, most people should fall in the sick to healthy aspect group, and then you should be drinking 47 mils per each kilogram. And the maximum amount of water you should be drinking in any 24 hours is 4 liters. So if you're a very large person and you calculate that you should be drinking about 5.5 liters, the cutoff point is 4 liters. Now, if you're doing a lot of exercises where you're sweating a lot, or if you're in a very hot climate, you should be drinking about 50 mils for each kilogram of weight, but that's only during the time you're doing those exercises. So if you're in a very hot country, but in air-conditioned environment, then stick to 47 mils per kilogram of weight. And then added to that, if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet rich with fruits and vegetables in their natural state, you'll be also getting additional water from the foods. So these are the two things that may cause constipation, but also is a cure for constipation. All right, I'm going to quickly go through because I'm conscious of time. Okay, inactivity. Inactivity can lead to constipation. So imagine if someone is paralyzed, they're going to have a tendency to constipation. If they're paralyzed from the neck down or below the waist, they're going to have a tendency to constipation. Equally, if someone is inactive and they're sitting down all day, and if they're inactive, especially after a meal, they will have a tendency to constipation. So it's crucially important that people exercise, and what the best exercise I always say is walking. So why exercise? Exercise, this is a quote written in 1890, exercise aids the dyspeptic, that's someone's difficulty of digestion, by giving the digestive organs a healthy tone, but a short walk after a meal with the head erect and the shoulders back, exercising moderately is a great benefit. So it's important to exercise. All right, next thing we're going to look at what causes and the cures for constipation. So a lot of medication creates constipations. So pain relievers, analgesic, morphine codeine slows down the digestion. Antacids, antispasmodic drugs, antidepressant drugs, tranquilizers, iron supplements, all these different drugs cause constipation. And can you imagine it? Laxatives, the abuse of laxatives can cause constipation as well. So if people are using laxative continually when they're abused, especially for some people who use them to slim, to lose weight, it can actually cause your constipation to worsen. So there are three main laxatives: the bulking agents, that's where you're eating a high fiber diet, psyllium husk, oats, and wheat bran. The osmotic laxatives, and that's to do with water. It draws water into the bowels. An example of that is like lactulose. And then there's a third type, the stimulant laxatives, and those ones really irritate the colon. Yes, and it makes the colon want to get this stuff out as quickly as possible. An example of that is castor oil and Epsom salts. Okay, and then the last causes and cures for constipation is the physical aspects, is aging. Yes, so people say as you get older, you're more likely to be constipated. However, when we look at the elderly people, they're more likely to eat a low fiber diet, and they tend to rely on packaged and prepared foods. They're often taking a series of medications which slow down their bowels. And also, as we get older, we lose the sense of thirst. Whereas young people, when they're thirsty, they go and have a drink of water. Older people lose the ability to know when they're thirsty. Other physical issues that may cause constipation is pregnancy, as I mentioned as well. I want to look at some of the psychological factors. Yeah. So there's some emotional and psychological factors that can cause constipation. Emily Titterton died on the 8th of February 2013 from a cardiac arrest caused by chronic constipation. She was 16 years old. Emily, who was homeschooled, had not been to the toilet for 3 months. An inquest into her death heard that the constipation was so bad that some of her internal organs had been moved out of their position, including her diaphragm. The paramedics who came described their shock at Emily's grossly extended abdomen when she collapsed at home, and they said that she was vomiting feces. The coroner said that all this could have been prevented and concluded the cause of death was natural causes contributed by psychosocial factors. Okay. So some of the psychosocial factors, I'm going to share a picture with you. And this is, I'm going to tell a story of my son. When he was young, about 17, he was going to a college in Leicester. He lived with my parents, and he refused to use the toilet at school, at the college. He would reject the urge to go to toilet. Yes, he rejected that urge, and he would wait until he would go home to have a poo. Eventually, over time, he became impacted with feces. And so when he came up during the summertime to be with us, his parents, it came to light that he was impacted with feces, and we had to do something to sort him out. Fortunately, we were able to do something to resolve that issue. However, psychological factors can interrupt the ability to go toilet. Now, another thing that can be a psychological factor is when people get put off from the food that they eat. There is a close relationship between the brain and the gut. And remember Pavlov's dogs, when the bell was rung, they start salivating, they produce gastric juices. And in the same way, the same things happens to us. You know, when we know that food is coming and we're anticipating that food, you know, our body starts producing gastric juices to help digest the food. However, if we have a monotonous and bland diet day after day after day, then we will not produce those gastric juices to digest the food, and the food is not digested effectively, and it starts putrefying, fermenting, and become rancid inside the body and start making the body become constipated. So it's important that we eat our food with relish. Now, the next thing I wanted to look at is relish. We need to enjoy our foods, yeah, when we eat it. To sit, I'm just conscious of time, so I'm trying to go quicker. So many people ask me, what is the best position to have a poo in? To sit or to squat? Now, my husband and I have been to China, toilets, the public toilets. So they have these toilets that are on the floor and you have to squat over the toilet. And I remember the very first time I saw the toilet, I was thinking, do I do it forward? Do I go backwards? I just didn't know how to squat over the toilet. And also I had a skirt on and I was trying to hold this skirt up around my waist. And also added to that, the Chinese are very open about movement. So the cubicles were very short and anyone could walk past and see you squatting on the toilet. You know, us in the Western world, we're very private about when we have our poo. We don't tell people, oh, I've just been for a poo, you know, and we're concerned about the smell and different things like that. So the question that we have, should we sit or should we squat? Which is the best way? Now, there's actually a kink right at the end of the rectum, almost a 90-degree angle that helps keep us from messing our pants when we're walking around. But that angle is only slightly straightened out when we sit on a Western toilet. The greatest straightening out of this angle occurs when we're in a squatting position. And that allows us to have a smoother bowel elimination. So if you're squatting, it helps the poo to just drop out easily, as you can see on the slide. The problem with sitting on a Western toilet is that it keeps the kink in your lower bowel, and that forces you to work harder to push out the feces. Squatting relaxes your puborectalis muscle more and straightens out your colon, giving the stools a straight route out. As a result, you can go more easily with less straining. Now, in 2003, a study was done of 28 healthy people to see how long it took them to pass stools, whether sitting on a standard toilet, sitting on a low toilet, or squatting. They not only recorded how long it took them, but how much effort it took. Squatting, the study concluded, takes less time and less effort. But the question is asked, how many people can balance themselves on a standard toilet? Can you do that? I'll be frightened of slipping off and my foot going into the basin of the toilet. It's uncomfortable and dangerous. So what the researchers suggested, that instead of doing that, squatting on the toilet, you lean forward as you sit and with your hands on or near the floor. So you're leaning forward on the toilet with your hands on the floor. They advise all sufferers from constipation to adopt this forward leaning position when pooing, as the weight of your torso places extra pressure on your colon. But the question is, why not just treat the cause? You know, if you think about those African children who ate an indigenous diet, you know, yes, they squatted, but they could poo on demand. They didn't have to exert any pressure. Instead of finding ways to add even more pressure, which like Elvis caused a heart attack caused by the Valsalva maneuver, why not get to the root of the problem? The fundamental cause of straining is the effort required to pass unnaturally firm stools. A cardiologist, Dr. Joel Kahn, said, "You know you're eating a plant-based diet when you take longer to pee than to poo." You know you're eating a plant-based diet when you take longer to pee than to poo. So I'm coming towards the end. So essentially what they're saying is your poo should just drop out of you, just come out without any effort. So let's start looking at some of the right habits that we need to adopt in order to maintain a healthy bowel, healthy colon. We need to eat a whole food plant-based diet. I've been saying that throughout this whole presentation. We need to increase the amount of raw foods. We need to be drinking water, and drink it according to our health and body weight. We need to be exercising regularly. We need to put in place regularity in our lifestyle. Get up at the same time, have breakfast at the same time, drink your water during the day steadily throughout the day, have your lunch at the same time, go to bed at the same time in the evening, and train your body to have a poo at the same time every day. We need to chew our food. We need to, as I mentioned, train our body to bowels, train our body to open our bowels. We also need to use oils, which are very healthy for bowel movements, but we use them in their natural states. So rather than adding the olive oil to your food, use the oil in the olives, eat the olives. If you don't like olives, there's sesame seeds, there's flax seeds, there's nuts. Now, if you still have a problem, if you've done all that and you still have a problem, here's some additional interventions you can do. All right, I'm going to go through this quickly. Exclude any infections like bacteria, fungal, parasitic that can cause constipation. There is small intestinal bowel overgrowth, which can cause chronic constipation. Double your fiber intake. Increase your legumes such as kidneys, navy beans, pintos, lima beans. Have vegetable, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, all those different things. Avoid things like corn and man-made vegan foods. Reduce the amount of laxatives you're using and try and replace it with psyllium husks. You can buy these online, buy Whole Foods online. And I haven't got shares in this company either. They add bulk and water to your stools, which allow for easy passage. Now, if you take psyllium husk, it's important that you drink even more water because psyllium husk absorbs the water into the stools. And it's important to build up gradually as well. You can also try chia seeds. Chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds. These are soluble fibers. These can all be used in the same way as psyllium seeds. Another thing you can do is review your medications. If you're taking iron supplements, see if you can replace it with something else as well. If you're on painkillers, see if you can replace it with something else. If you're on omeprazole, look at replacing that as well. You can take vitamin C, which can help to soften the stools, and you take it to bowel tolerance. and also avoid stress, depression, and anxiety. So if you've done all that, you still have problems, you can think of taking magnesium sulfate. That's really good, but again, it needs to be done under supervision, especially if you've never used it before. You can take aloe vera. I don't like the stuff, but it's excellent for constipation. You can increase the amount of dry fruits in your diet. Again, drink plenty of water because they're dehydrated. They need water as well. You can buy yourself an enema bag, follow the instructions on the bag, and you can give yourself an enema as well. There's different ways that you can give yourself enemas. And then finally, another thing that you can do, if you've done all that and you still have a problem, you can seek some additional interventions. You can have a colonic hydrotherapy program, which we offer at Manor House. So finally, in summary, remember the old adage, prevention is better than cure. We need to be following the lifestyle that was originally prescribed for us. The original lifestyle was eating a whole food, plant-based diet, drinking water, and gentle, pleasant exercise after our meals. We need to develop habits of regularity of waking and sleeping, working and going to toilet. And most of all, have complete trust and gratitude in a God that loves us. So thank you very much.
And thanking you very much, Lucille. That was fantastic. Really, really informative. I'm not sure about on Zoom here, but definitely on YouTube, there's been some questions and we have been doing our best to answer questions, but that was fantastic. I learned quite a lot from today's presentation, so really, really appreciate today. And if there's anybody that you know that you'd love to share this wealth of information with, please remember this is being recorded live on YouTube. And so after the show, they can go back, or you can share the link with them, which we'll put again on in the chat. We can share the link with them. And if there's anything that you missed that you think, you know, actually, I want to see that bit again, remember, you can always go onto YouTube, take those slides, screenshots from your device, and get the information that you need. But absolutely brilliant. Louise, was you going to say something?
Yes, Sharon, there's a lady called Betty. She's had her hand up. Are you still on the program?
Yes, before Betty speaks, just to let everybody know that if you do have questions, try not to make it so that it's personal to you, as in a consultation. Bear in mind, you do have your general practitioner, but we do have individuals who are available to do consultation. So if necessary, Lucille, would you be happy for anybody to take your number as a presenter on here?
Absolutely, yes.
That's fine. So bear that in mind when you're asking your questions. Don't make it too personal. General questions, please. So Betty, we have seen your hand. It's been up since early on. You can unmute and ask your question. Okay, maybe you're struggling with that. Okay, we have had a couple of questions on YouTube and we have dealt with them. So let me just see if there's anything else in the chat. Can you see anything, Louise? There's lots of people saying great, informative. Some people said, oh, I was eating, but I think you knew the topic before you came on. Okay, yes, thank you, Lucille. You've put your details in the chat. Somebody said, great information. Visiting Manor House for 10 days have changed my life. Thank you for that. I won't mention your name just in case. Ben has a hand up. Ben, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Louise, for that expensive info, because that's something that we always go and pay to hear it. Now, my question is that beside water, what liquid can you drink to make it easy for your stool to come down? Can you drink prune juice?
Absolutely, yes. Prune juice is excellent. So remember the slides that of all dry fruit? So what you can do, you can take any of those dry fruits, soak them, blend them, and drink them, yes? The best thing to do is to drink, well, if you're diabetic, you need to be careful about that, especially drinking it at night. It may raise your blood sugar, but if you haven't got diabetic problems, any of those dry fruits, you don't need to go and get prune juice. But aloe vera is excellent, you know, for helping you to go toilet as well.
Thank you.
How do you use the prune juice to help to go toilet? Do you blend it or?
Yeah, so remember the slide with all those different dry fruits? So it's not just prunes got something in them, but there's other apricots got things in it as well that helps to make you go. So what you do, you just get your prunes. If you've got the dry prunes, soak them in water. You know, you can put them in
aloe vera. Sorry, I meant the aloe vera.
The aloe vera, okay. Yeah. So you get your fresh aloe vera. The South Asian shops sell them. I know my local South Asian shop sells them. So I usually peel the edges, the sharp bits of it, peel that off, wash it, and then I literally blend it with some water, and you can add some lemon or lime juice to it, and then you drink it if you can.
Or you use it with the skin on, you blend it with the skin on?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, yeah, thank you, that's helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Betty, I believe you were struggling to unmute earlier. You should be able to unmute now.
Yeah.
Thank you. My question has been answered.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you very much. And are you happy to tell us where you're calling in from? I forgot to ask our previous, obviously we know Ben, you're from Nottinghamshire. Yeah, whereabouts it's just always interesting to know where you're coming in from. Pardon? Betty?
I'm from London.
Okay.
And I've invited 200 people, but I don't know who's on. So if anyone I've invited and they want to let you know, that's fantastic.
I'm on. Myrna is on.
Okay, so
thank you.
Myrna is on.
Ooh.
If you just put it in
one,
so we're not all unmuting at the same time, then we can see, and then Betty, you can pass your details on to Jonathan on one of the hosts. Okay, there's a few questions here in the chat. Someone says a lot of vegetables causes me discomfort as I have irritable bowel syndrome. Are there any vegetables that are good for constipation as I'm always constipated? Question for Lucille.
So if she has problems with vegetables, then try fruits. Try fruits. If they have a problem with certain vegetables, yes, avoid it and just try fruits. Or she can try liquidizing the vegetables and see how she gets on. Make a smoothie and see how she gets on. There's fiber still inside it. So if you have a smoothie, the fiber is still included in the smoothie. And see how she gets on with that. And there's other vegetables as well that's good for constipation. Beetroot and carrot juice. That's very, very good. We tend to give that a lot to our health guests, and it gets them moving as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll read another comment in the chat unless there's any more questions. There's lots of people saying thank you. So this is life-saving information. There's one person who said, my worst case of constipation was due to psychological factors. I was in unfamiliar surroundings. I went on holiday from the UK, and it lasted for over a week, no matter what I tried, including constipation tablets. What worked for me, though, was to go to the shower, one near a toilet. I did my own enema using the shower head and water under pressure while sitting in a squat position. It started a reflex. I got a colonic irrigation as a bonus. I was fine thereafter. So
Absolutely.
That's improvising, yeah? Being resourceful with what you have around you. So
absolutely. The hot and cold, when you spray it onto the perineal area, it causes the blood to go and the muscles to move, and that also helps. So yes, that is excellent as well.
Another person has asked, what are the symptoms for piles?
Well, you will know if you have piles. If you feel your bottom, you feel part of the anus bulging out, and it's painful. Yes, because the pressure is like a vein being pushed down. So you will feel it bulging out, and it will be painful. It may be irritable as well. You may only be able to sit on one cheek of your bottom because it's painful as well. And also with piles, you can push them back in with your finger, but it is painful as well.
Right, so pain is going to be something that will be a telltale sign, plus you could physically see it, as you said. Someone else says swollen. I guess there will be some swelling going on there too, with the squeezing. Now, I'm just looking to see if there's any more questions. Can you see any more? I think we've covered them all, most of them that we'll ask. I was going to ask with regards to a challenge, but you've set so much information in your presentation. What do you pick? I mean, there was the transit time challenge.
Yes.
You've challenged everyone. That's absolutely brilliant. And then you gave the list of things that could cause constipation. So you know to do the reverse. So, like not eat cheese or milk, the lactose, if you have a lack of fiber, obviously increase your fiber. There was so much to choose from. So really, would you
transit time?
Pardon?
Transit time.
You'd say that would be a good one if you.
That'd be a good one.
That's yeah. Okay.
Yeah, to start off, to see how they can get it into the optimum amount of time, the 12-hour.
Right, that was a good one. I did do a screenshot, and I'm sure perhaps some people may have wished they did it. So would it be possible for you to go back to that slide, Lucille? And as Lucille's looking, remind you, it's beetroots or charcoal to ingest. Okay, here's a separate question. Should fruits be eaten before or after a main meal? I'd say you'd have your fruits as well if you're going to have a fruit salad meal or something that's not going to be eaten at the same time as
yeah, fruit and vegetables should be eaten separately.
Yeah.
At different, yeah. Okay.
And if you're going to have fruits and vegetables, remember, if it's separate meals, you need that gap, that 5-hour gap between your meals. Okay, so we're going back to the transit time video screen. If you want to talk that one up again, Lucille, because there may be some people that have come on later, or maybe they were distracted when you showed this slide.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk through it again?
Yeah, that would be useful.
So transit time is essentially about how long it takes for your food to go from your mouth and come out the other end. And it's a test that you can do. So the optimal time it should take for your food to go from your mouth to come out the other end is 12 to 24 hours. If it's less than 12 hours, you may have malabsorption problems. In other words, you're eating the food, but you're not absorbing the nutrients. If it's over 24 hours, yeah, And then the waste is sitting too long in the colon. So what's happening if you eat a high protein diet, whether it's high protein vegetables or meat, which is worse, animal flesh, then that is putrefying. The fat is becoming rancid, and the carbohydrate is fermenting in the system, and it's creating free radicals that causes sick cells, causes inflammation, and causes disease. So what we're aiming for is a transit time between 12 and 24 hours. So how to do the test? Two things you can use. If you've got charcoal powder or tablets, you mix it with water and you drink it. If you can't get charcoal powder, you can go to your local shop, get some beetroots. You can either grate them or juice them and drink them, or you can boil them and eat them. So you will need to be between 3 and 4 beetroots, depending on the size. You write the date and the time down, because some people think, yeah, I remember when I ate that, but you forget. So you write the date and the time down in your phone or on a piece of paper somewhere, and then keep on checking your poo and see when you see when it comes out the other end. So check in the toilet every time you have a poo, and then calculate the time when you ate that food and the time when you saw it in the toilet. And that is your transit time.
Thank you.
Sorry, somebody had a question in the thing. What does it mean if the stool are smelly?
It depends really. If the stools shouldn't be offensive, it shouldn't be, it should have an odor, but it shouldn't be offensive. So if your stools is offensive, you know, you have a poo and the whole house stinks out, something's not quite right with your digestion, and that needs to be looked at. Yes, but it depends. It can have a sweet smell, it could have an acidic smell, an alkaline. It depends. It really, really depends. But stools shouldn't be offensive.
Okay, before the next question, just to remind you, if you do have the beetroots for your transit time challenge, don't be alarmed when it comes out red out the other end, okay? So if you have blood in your stools, that's separate. You do need to get that checked out, but don't be surprised when it comes out red in the toilet. And also it may affect your urine color as well. That can also be a little bit on the rosy tint.
Good point, Sharon. Very good point.
There's more questions. Can you have a couple more, Louise, please?
So the question's about what alternatives are there to suppositories for hemorrhoids? Yeah, to soothe them, I imagine. So you can use different things. You can use cucumber to cool it down.
Okay. Another person said that that you could use sweet corn for the transit time test. I mean, I'm aware that a lot of times when people eat sweet corn, they might not chew it sufficiently, and so it's malabsorbed anyway. Do you have any comments on that one, Lucille?
Sometimes, you know, you have to eat a lot of sweet corn to see it in your stool. Sometimes they can be buried deep inside the feces. Whereas with the beetroot and the charcoal, the whole stool is either red or black or dark brown. Whereas with the corn, you may have to be searching for it.
Okay, there's a couple more comments. When we eat asparagus, it changes the pea smell. Yes, it does. I'm not sure what this person meant. What colour should be of a Hesley? Oh, a healthy. Oh, what should be the colour of healthy stools? Sorry, if you can just put your question in there again, a bit more clearer, because obviously your colour is going to be determined by what you eat. Another question, what causes constipation during the menstrual cycle, day 1? Interesting one there.
Yeah, it varies according to people, but it's the estrogen levels. It changes those estrogen levels causes, you know, the constipation. I was going to say something, but I won't.
Okay, so it could be your estrogen levels, but whatever's causing the constipation, remember, we do have things that you can do to relieve the constipation. And if you've forgotten what it is, just rewind back when you go back onto YouTube to look at this again, because I'm sure a lot of people will look at this again. Just rewind back on your YouTube or forward, fast forward, whichever end you're approaching it from, to look and see what other preventative things that you can do for preventing constipation. Okay, I'm just looking to see if there's any more questions. Not sure if you can look on your device to see if there's any on YouTube, Edgar. Do you want me to read that one? Yes, my hubby was about to call the doctor after checking, then the toilet bowl. Then I reminded him about his last meal. It was beetroot. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But that's true. What causes polyps and how can they be prevented? Are polyps different to the other thing when it comes out? I've forgotten what it's called now. Piles.
Oh yeah, polyps tend to be internal within the within the colon. Again, it's linked to lifestyle and diet as well. You know, diverticulitis, polyps, all of those are related to people's lifestyle and what they're eating as well.
Okay, there's another question. There's a question about stool colour. So thank you for the Bristol chart. I'm presuming that's the one where you were describing things looking perhaps a bit like chicken nuggets or
yeah,
the other things that are on there. But there's a comment on different colour poo. There's red, green, brown, black, yellow, and grey poo. My daughter has concerns about her grey poo. Any thoughts?
Grey poo.
What is she eating? You know, what does her diet consist of? That's a question I would like to know. Some people have grey stools and fatty stools that are floating in the toilet, if they're a bit offensive as well. And I remember there was a condition that's associated with grey stools, but I cannot remember what it is at the moment.
Okay, right. Going up, there's one about sinker and floater. I know that's should your stool be a sinker or a floater? And then there's some more questions slightly above. I'll leave that one with you again, Lucille.
Well, stool should eventually sink. Yes, if it's floating, they've got a lot of gas inside it, fermentation. So it's floating on the top of the water. If it's a fatty stool, they're not digesting the fats. So then it's going to float on the water as well. But stools should sink eventually. Yeah.
Thanking you. There was a comment about hemorrhoids from Holistic You. She said you can squeeze lemon juice on your hemorrhoids to help shrink them a little, but that can be uncomfortable. Yeah. Could you describe how you would do that?
For me?
Well, I suppose, well, if you know, but if not, the person, Joan, if you could.
It's just you just tape some toilet paper or some gauze, put the lemon on the gauze and just apply it to the hemorrhoids. Open your cheeks and pop it in, closed cheeks.
Said just like a nurse who does all these things. I mean, obviously,
there's another one I was going to mention, but now people are talking about lemon or whatever. You can also use garlic as well. That helps to shrink it. Yeah, and so you can take some garlic, scrape it, and rub it around. That helps to reduce the swelling as well, constrict the blood vessels.
So this isn't just taking a garlic clove intact. You need to
yeah,
release the properties.
You just get a clove, scrape it,
Crush it, scrape it.
Scrape, and then just rub it around your anal region, around the hemorrhoids, and it will sting and whatever, but it helps to shrink it.
Okay, so don't be alarmed if it stings a little. Right, bearing in mind the time now, there's quite a few more suggestions. So there's a few questions, but they've pretty much been answered by people who are able to do that with regards to the colour of grey stools and getting it checked out. As if you remember our disclaimer, you know, only a physician, well, you'd have to rewind and go back, but can treat and prescribe, or can prescribe for your illnesses and diseases. We're here to give you educational advice, but not to prescribe. Okay, so I'm going to ask Lucille, before I invite Jonathan to come back on, are there any places available for the programme that you're going to be doing at Manor House in April? And if you could say the date again.
Yes, yes, we've got a few more places left. They're filling up quickly. The dates are the 4th to the 14th. That's a 10-day program. We have a couple of health guests who will be staying 14 days on the program. So the first 10 days is a Restore to Health program. And the other additional 4 days, we'll be working with health guests who have a bit more significant health challenges and sort of equipping them fully with the skills that they can move on with a new program. So we've got a 10-day program, the 4th to 14th, and then one that continues to the 18th as well. And we've got a few places left on those programs.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. If people want to know any more about the programs, just go on our website. All the program dates are there. And if you haven't got my number, you can always go through the website to contact me. I've put our contact details in the chat as well.
So for those that are on YouTube, if we can just say it aloud, what the contact details are, because I'm struggling to juggle.
Oh, yes, yes. So my phone number is 07933436515. I'll repeat that, 07933436515. The email is info@Manor Health. That's one word, and we spell it as the bread from heaven, manorhousehealth.co.uk, and the website is manorhousehealth.co.uk.
So that's MANNA House Health.
Yes.
Okay. So just to remind people, yes, although lockdown is happening, or even if it might be lifted by April, Manor House practice social distancing. So you was going to say something?
So in terms of Manor House, we are one of the providers that can continue to run programs. So our day clinics is open Sunday to Thursday. It's currently open. We're still seeing health guests because some people can, you know, they're more likely to die if their health condition than from COVID. We have a policy in place in terms of COVID and how we manage that as well. So legally, we are allowed to continue having programs as well. So we are exempt from it because we are a community interest company that provides support for people with health and lifestyle conditions.
Thank you. So if you go along to Manor House, and you mentioned that you heard about Manor House on the True Temperance International show, that would be good because it's always useful to know where your customers are coming from.
Absolutely.
Right. Jonathan, are you available to unmute? You're welcome, Colin. Are you available to unmute? You really went to the bottom of the issues.
Yeah, that made me laugh. Very funny, Colin.
I love the humour. Yeah, Jonathan, are you available to unmute and share anything with regards to the giveaways? We do.
Yes, Sharon, I am. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Lucille, for your presentation. Very informative. I sat quietly listening to all the information there. Yes, as you guys know that we have a giveaway each week, and the giveaway is for any person. We're trying to give away two items per week. Currently, we have the lung tonic that we've been giving away, and we've got I promised someone last week I've got a pain oil. I'll just put my camera on briefly. I've got a pain oil. Can you all see me?
We can see. Just raise the level of your oils. There we go.
Yes. So I've got a pain oil from Mercy Doors Ministry that I'm giving away. I promised someone last week if they bring on 5 people or more, I would give it to them. And we would prefer it. We really like it to go to someone who is suffering from pain. So here it is. If such person is online, the gift is yours. If you bring on that 5 person this week. Anybody? No?
We did have a sister who, I think 2 of her people that she invited were on the platform. I don't know if there's any more. She said she invited 200. Remember, it can't be people who are already on the True Temperance International groups. It needs to be somebody who's new. But yes, if that is you, if you qualify, and as Lucille was saying, a lot of the painkillers, some of them, they have side effects which could lead to constipation, whereas this pain salve does not have that kind of side effect. But yes.
I'll quickly move on then, Sharon, because I can't hear any response.
That was Betty. She needs to pass on her details to you. So just drop a message on the chat to Jonathan.
Yeah, with her address, and we'll get it posted out to her. But just to say, anybody on the group that need these oils, they can contact Louise. She's the person that actually make these oils. They're available at Mercy Doors Ministry. Also, I've been promising, sorry, let me finish. Also, the lung tonic, I can't hear anyone say they bring on anybody as well. So those I will keep. They're usually those available from Holistic Ministries. You can get them. She manufactured those. You can get them from her. So over the holidays, I've been promising, these are available. They're encyclopedias. They are available for sale. I've been promising that I will do a package with the encyclopedia and a recipe book. Just to let you all know that the recipe book is now available. It's hot off the press. It's from Jason Williams and Stephanie. Stephanie is our chef that we had on during the, one of our chefs that we had on during the Christmas period. So if anyone wants to get a copy of this or a few copies of this, please do contact me. They are now available, and I'll make them available with this encyclopedia book. I'll keep my gifts, Sharon, since no one is responding. And hopefully someone will challenge me for next week. They will bring on some people, and I'm really and truly, I'm ready to give them away. I've got 7 available of the lung tonic. So if anyone really want my gifts, then they know what to do. Thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. So just to remind you, your challenge for this week, you do not know who to send it to. Oh, sorry, send it to TTI Ministry. That's Jonathan, TTI Ministry. And there's a request for the cost of the encyclopedia. And I would also assume there's a request for the cost of the cookbook. So if you can put that information on the chat, and If I see it, I'll speak it up for those live on YouTube, unless you're able to unmute and let us know, Jonathan.
Someone had their hands up, E-Baptist.
Oh, missed that one. Thank you, Louise.
You're welcome.
I have, if anyone doesn't want the pain ointment, I can have one.
There's terms and conditions, E-Baptiste.
But I'm one of your first. I'm
One of the first.
This is my first time on your Zoom.
Oh, okay. Welcome. It's always lovely to have new family on here. Thank you.
Sharon, just to find out, just to let
myself and daughter is here.
Just to find out who to invite her on, because as we have said, there's terms and condition, and it's going to those who actually invite you on.
Yes, so just to clarify, the giveaways are for the individuals who invited you, not necessarily you as a guest. It's always great having new guests, and I'm sure, sorry, can you just mute? Please.
It only goes to
always good to have new guests on here.
We've invited 5 people.
Okay.
Sorry, can the administrators please mute those who are not?
But how do you get?
It's always good to have new people on here, and I'm sure that the wealth of information that you had today was priceless. Like I said, life-saving information. But just to encourage you to encourage others, that's what the giveaway is for. Okay. So yeah, keep trying.
Just give the lady a gift.
I'm sure everybody would love the gift. I'm sure everybody would. However, they are available to purchase. So it's just to encourage you to encourage others.
You may just have lost a soul there, really. Give the lady a gift.
Thank you, 75015. I think that was your number. Right, so you've made me lose my train of thought now. Right, so yes, so the challenge, as we said, is to do the transit time test. So let us know how you get on with that this week. That should be really good to hear some testimonies. Hopefully you'll be able to feedback with that one. I'll just remind you, we do have our groups. So if you wish to join and be encouraged during the week with regards to help during the week for fulfilling the tasks, and also we'll give you encouragement as well. There are our Telegram groups for men and women, and we also have our WhatsApp groups, which we're trying to transition away from. And we have our spiritual health Telegram group, and we have our Bible studies on a Tuesday and essential oils on a Thursday. If you want more information, just drop us a message, stay on at the end of the show, and we'll give you more information. So I don't think there's anything else I need to add. I think we've covered everything. Oh, next week, of course, next week. Next week's show, from my recollection, again, Charlene, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're doing insomnia. I think we'll be looking at insomnia, the need for.
Correct, Sharon. Insomnia from Holistic, who's been talking.
Yeah.
In the chat.
That's right. So Holistic, who makes the pain. No,
the lung tonics.
The lung tonic, sorry. Holistic, who makes the lung tonic. Excuse me, this is live. Holistic, who makes the lung tonic. She'll be presenting next week on insomnia. So remember, if there's anybody that you know that might benefit from this, and even if you don't know if they're going to benefit, I'm sure they'll know somebody else. Invite them along on next week, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock UK time, 5 p.m. South Africa time. And wherever you live, you know the time because you're here now. So it's a 2-hour show, and it's now just after 5 o'clock. So there's some questions on here asking if we can tell them the price of the books. Jonathan, if you're able to unmute and let us know the time. And there are some comments in the chat with regards to who is here from the invitations by another guest. I think you know what I'm trying to say. Yes, the same login, absolutely the same login. So at this point, we are happy to say good, well, not happy, we're sad to say goodbye to our YouTube viewers, but we're happy to say we'll see you again next week. So look forward to that. Have a wonderful week. That's what I'm saying. So we will say goodbye to our YouTube viewers and have a wonderful week. Remember your challenge. And even if it's not the one, if you don't do the transit time, there's so many others on the list. So pick something from there and you can still feedback and let us know how you got on. Okay.
Following in somebody's footsteps, or sometimes we find ourselves thrown into things like maybe it was our calling, like we never saw ourselves doing it. I never thought I would ever be a teacher while growing up, but here I am.
Sorry, Shirley, I think you need to mute unless that was a question you were asking. Okay, thank you. Right, so thank you everybody and goodbye.
This is the time, sorry Sharon, this is the time we can say, people can say where they come from now.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, if you wish to unmute, you can unmute and say goodbye, let us know where you're joining us from. And if you don't want to, if you're a little bit shy, that's fine. You can just listen in or find something. Maybe you got a bit of time, you might, there's a little bit of daylight out there, you can do a little bit of walking or even walk in the dark, it's up to you, so long as you're safe. Be safe.
We're from High Wycombe.
You're from High Wycombe. Ah, yeah. Thank you for joining us, the Baptiste family.
Yeah.
Bye YouTube.
Thank you.